Ambassador Papian has had a very rich career. As far as I could figure out, he was born in 1961 in Yerevan. In 1981 and 82 and 84 and 86, he was a military interpreter in Afghanistan. I presume it was Iranian because he is an expert in the Iranian language. In 1984, he graduated, or was graduated, from the Department of Oriental Studies at Yerevan State University, a very rich department. And then he served as professor of Armenian language and literature for a few years at the Melkonian Institute in Cyprus. We had a friend come over the other night who was a graduate of the Melkonian Institute, and he was bragging about how all the great Armenians taught there. And indeed, Melkonian has a brilliant history, and Ambassador Papian contributed to that. Now, in 1989, he finished his postgraduate work at Yerevan State University. 1991 and 92, he was the head of the Iranian division of the Near East Department of the Foreign Ministry. And then in 1992, 1993, he was second secretary of the Armenian Embassy in Iran. 1994, he was graduated from the Moscow Diplomatic Academy, a very powerful place where advanced studies are taken. It's like the French higher academies, the one in Moscow is really up there. Then he became, in 1994-95, the head of the Iranian division of the Middle East Department. 1995-96, he became second secretary of the Armenian Embassy in Bucharest, Romania, and in 1997, the chargé d'affaires, which means when the ambassador is not there, he was in charge. In 1997-98, he was involved in arms control, if I can read my handwriting correctly. And then in 2000, he was appointed as the Armenian ambassador to Canada, where he served. He knows Armenian, obviously, Russian, obviously, English we shall see, and Persian. I think someone here was testing him a little earlier in his Persian, so I'm sure he is a real expert at that. I'm very proud to have this opportunity to introduce Ambassador Papian, and I think his message is going to be a very interesting one, and I'm sure we're going to enjoy it. Thank you so much.
The full text of arbitration, it's this book, you can find also there, was published in Yerevan, Armenia. All 240 pages of the text and another 28 color maps you can see. Woodrow Wilson was chosen to be arbitrator for the border between Armenia and Turkey. There were several reasons. One was that he, as a president, was involved since 1916 in Armenian issues, first as helping to generate money for helping Armenian orphans. It was done through many ways. 30 million was given by government, but the majority, another 100 million, was gathered by simple, ordinary, common Americans. You know that after World War I, when on October 13, 1918, Mudros armistice was signed in Paris, there was so-called Paris Peace Conference to deal with new world order, to settle all problems, and then there were several kind of formats, gatherings, but the most important one was so-called Big Four. Here you can see President of the United States from right to left, George Clemenceau, Prime Minister of France, Lloyd George, Prime Minister of Great Britain, Ed Orlando, who was Prime Minister of Italy. Part of Cyprus. The same with this. It's part of Armenia. It was occupied, yes, by Turks in September, October, November 1920. It was occupied. But in international law, there is no, let's say, time limit saying that if occupation is over 100 years, it's becoming legal. No. If the act is illegal, it means that it will be illegal forever if something will not be changed. This is why Turks decided to include in these protocols the special mentioning that Armenia recognized the borders between Turkey and because they know that this is a legal one. And if the protocols will be ratified, we'll lose all legal rights over this, because they will say, you see, you Armenian state, which is official recognized state with official government, already rejected all rights. This is most dangerous, and I wrote a book over 100 pages on this, 40 articles within 30 days, and they're fighting that, trying to convince others meeting that why you are doing this. You do not believe that it's possible to implement, but don't close the door for future generations. You don't know what will be outcome after 10 years, 15 years. Nobody believes that Soviet Union will collapse. Well, let's be prepared for changes. Let's prepare a legal basis for that, and the time will come. I just will go through the most important, because there are 5 maps in this book just to show, because this is also important for Armenian, Azerbaijani and Armenian-Georgian borders. And Armenian, Azerbaijan and Armenian-Georgian borders is defined by League of Nations on, there was special, a single document saying that Nagorno-Karabakh is yours. The title is given. There is not a single document, legal international document, that ever Karabakh belonged to them. Because it was done on the basis of party decision of Bureau and so on. But we have the final binding decision was done by League of Nations February 24. And in April, Azerbaijan became Soviet, and then Armenia, and so it wasn't implemented. By the way, it was linked with the decision arbitral award, saying that within 3 months after the decision, it must be implemented. And it was November 22nd, which means that 1920, which means in February of, it must be, but at that time there was no Armenia, there was no Azerbaijan, there was no Georgia. United Nations. And so this was a card published at that time in 1947 showing that this belongs to Armenia. Because interestingly, Armenians up to 60s never were thinking about recognition of genocide. They were thinking about lands. Right. And they were fighting about this, were trying to show that you see, Wilson did this and we were trying, but you know, because the dangerous situation for Armenian is that if we are becoming too close to Russia, as we became part of Russia, the world see giving any land to Armenia is giving the land to Russia. And this is, we have to be in between. It's because some people say that we must be very close. No, we must be, keep distance from all parts, because many countries are interested to have bigger Armenia, many of them. But no one is interested to have Russian influence in Middle East. And this is we have to keep. And if we will prepare ourselves to that, and we have less, 3.5 years till the centennial 100 years of genocide, I see the most important thing that we have to do before that, we have to prepare all legal documents. I mean to collect them, to publish them, to put into circulation, at least to go in 2015 with several volumes of official documents, plus analysis, opinion of world-famous international laws on this. Actually, this was my suggestion given to Kocharian. I was asking him to divide all this onto 3 parts, preparing, asking for international opinion of lawyers, famous lawyers, and then to decide what to do.
What can be done?
Okay. By the way,
does the Armenian government care, or they don't care? You know, I mean.
Yeah. There you can find in Armenian the concept of solution of Armenian question, and the same in English in the book there. There is a detailed explanation of how to do that, because every detail already is done. How it can be? There is Because first of all, it's impossible to populate Armenia, to stop exodus from this part of Armenia. This is part. And you cannot have a prosperous country if it's part. If you had only hand, the hand cannot survive without the body. The Armenian state is a part of Armenia. It cannot survive. I was telling this to Petrosyan in 1988, to all presidents. It cannot. I was telling them far before that after the economic growth, we will have collapse because the money will not come from, because people were sending money to their relatives will be dead at that time. After 15 years, nobody will send money, and the others. And Armenia will be a country with 1.5 million people as a protectorate under Turkey. Armenia cannot survive in these borders. It can survive only by two ways. The first is easiest way, what did Bolsheviks, Yastikian, to become part of a country. They became part of Soviet Union. We have to become part of Russia as Kaliningrad Oblast or part of Turkey. I don't know. But we cannot survive because we will not have a real independent country. It's impossible. Just it's impossible to have. If you are paying the same amount to send a container from Armenia to Poti, and the same from Poti to United States, how can you survive? The Georgians are charging you as much as for 10,000 miles. And this is because we have to answer to the question why we have to solve Armenian question. Not only how, why. Why the important is why? To survive. Without solution, we cannot survive. This is that we need to solve, because, and what about population? Okay, there are some calculations there. In, let's say, parts of Russian Armenia that are occupied by Turkey, which is 26,000 square kilometers, there are living 720,000 people. 720,000 people, which is possible to, through exchange or immigration, to keep down up to 300,000, which will be only 10% of modern Armenia. On the rest part of Wilson in Armenia, my suggestion is very simple. To have rights over there, which means to have condominium. Both countries, Armenia and Turkey, will have special right over that territory. What we need there? We need free transit access to sea. We can do that. We need demilitarization of that zone, because if Turkish army will not stand just on the border of Armenia, 300 far away, they will not be able to attack Armenia, which means that Azerbaijan will not begin a war, because Azerbaijan without Turkey cannot do anything to Armenia. The third situation is how to populate Armenia. You need money. You need money. What is one of the main consequences of genocide? It was we lost 1.5–2 million people. Okay, overcoming the what? Less Turks, we pay reparations to Armenia for the land using. There is a territorial lease all over the world. An agreement saying that the court decisions are binding and can be implemented in British courts, which means even there is no necessity to reconfirm it in Britain. We can take the decision of internet and go sue British Petroleum in any British court and ask to them to pay, and the decision will be paid. And for British Petroleum, there is no difference. They are paying money to 700 to Turkey, or half of that to Armenia. What's the difference? They will do that, saying, but to do that, we have to do our homework. People must be punished. They must pay by money, to pay by territory. It is impossible to overstretch Armenian sovereignty over Russian Armenia because of this modern situation, but we can find some middle solution which will satisfy our Turks and Kurds over there. Yes. Seaports over the seas. One on Mediterranean, Ayas. One was near Istanbul, Hyderabad, something like that. One was, interestingly, they were thinking it was property of Armenia. You have in the world such situations that some countries, they do not have border to sea access, but they own some part of seashore. It's their, 5 ports were given to Armenia, all over Mediterranean, and that we can also discuss this. I mean, when Armenia was legally bigger, which means Armenia will be in between South Caucasus and Turkey, we will have to possibly to negotiate with them. We'll give them free access over our territory there, and we regain another access over their territory. It's possible to do. But for that, at least we have to have legal rights. Because before, what you do in your everyday life, yeah, if you have some problem with, let's say, neighbors before going to court, you prepare your documents, your deed, your tax payment, and so on, prepare that, and then go to a lawyer asking them, okay, look to my papers, see it's worth to go to court or not, and say how much I have to. And the same must be with countries. Okay, let's prepare this, let's ask the opinion and go. If let's ask the others and then we'll go, because let's give possibility to at least one question. But before that, we have to prepare all documents and go. If this will be prepared, I promise you, I will go to Sarkisyan or other president and say, Mr. President, you see these three famous guys saying that is valid. And I am sure that it will be totally another approach to this issue. Why Armenian government, no government can refuse genocide. And everybody in Armenian government now afraid saying, no, there is no commission discussing genocide. Because genocide issue became in mind of Armenians as a national issue in Armenian abroad. And they cannot go against of that. But issue of territories, and we'll say it's not a national issue. It's a small part. Some guy, Ara speaking, some other guys there, let's say Ambassador Evans wrote something that is very important, and other professors said, but we have to have an official analyze, official assessment, legal assessment of these things, and then everything will be changed. I am hopeful that this new commission which exists now, I told already this within the year, that will emphasize and put the attention on legal part and part of our rights, not on genocide.
Thank you. Everyone, please, here we have a man who was thought out of the box. He's clearly a bold thinker. He takes his arguments to their logical conclusion. If you want to support him, please buy the book.